Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Proactive Troubleshooting and Issue Prevention with Runecast. If you received an invitation to this event, that's because you attended the Actual Tech Media IT Virtual Summit and you indicated that you'd like some additional information, perhaps a personal demo of the Runecast solution. And so we appreciate you accepting that special invitation. This is meant to be a fast-paced, demo-focused event. We're here to help you get all your questions answered about Runecast, what it can do, how it works, and how it can help you to solve your challenges when it comes to troubleshooting and preventing problems in your data center before they happen. So thank you so much for joining today's event. We want you to know that we encourage questions on this event. You can use the questions box. It's there on the left-hand side of your audience console. I can call your attention to it now. We'll be doing a Q&A session with our expert presenter after the live demo. We also have a number of handouts there in the audience console. There's a link to the Runecast Analyzer solutions brief. You can download that now. It's got a lot more information about Runecast. Make sure that you check that out. Also a URL that will take you to how the Runecast Analyzer works for IT systems admins. And there's a video there that you should check out after today's presentation. I should mention that my name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as your moderator for today's webinar. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to today's expert presenter. That is Mr. Wade Carlson, Systems Engineer at Runecast. Wade, thanks for being on the event today.
Oh, thank you so much, David. Really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, so as David indicated, I'm aware that most of you have seen a high-level overview of our product via the summit. So what I'm going to do today is I do have a couple of slides that I'm going to breeze through a little bit of high level of what Runecast does as a product and how it can help you in your VMware and your IT infrastructure environments. So with that being said, I do have an introduction slide, just some high level about myself, 25-year IT veteran, working mainly for Fortune 500 companies. I've played in many different roles, started as a Windows Server administrator and sysadmin, and clear back in about 2000, I started messing with and playing with VMware. So that's pretty much been my career path ever since. So many years in different areas of VMware, from system design, architecture, and so on and so forth, up to managing a global team of the VMware space and the virtualization services. So again, like I say, you've seen a lot of this, but the essence behind Runecast is identifying issues and analyzing your configuration in your VMware environment and comparing those results back to known documented issues. 90% of issues that are developed in a VMware environment are known issues. So we have repositories out there like the VMware's knowledge base articles, their best practices. We have a slew of security frameworks out there in the industry that we're able to check and validate against your configuration and proactively show you where you have gaps and underlying problems in your configuration before you experience an outage in the environment. And that's really what we're about, proactive analysis and troubleshooting. If I click to the next slide, Runecast Analyzer solves these problems. Again, it's a proactive solution in identifying things before they create an outage and you experience downtime, costing your business money. We do scan proactively the knowledge base articles, and we cover the full repository of what VMware offers. Okay, so it's not a subset of the KB's best practices and a subset of some of the security frameworks, but it's the entire catalog. So we're comparing against everything that's available on the version of VSXi that you're running and in your environment. We also do your configuration analysis. As indicated, we'll look at your vCenter database, get your configuration stack. Our analytics engine will then, via our knowledge definitions that are pulled in with all of these sources, check and see where there are gaps in the environment. We do also offer a log analysis section, which basically looks at your logs, compares your logs to KB article, and then we sort and filter logs based on error codes or error messages to where, again, we're trying to eliminate or alleviate much of the troubleshooting steps that are required and the time spent in identifying issues in the environment and remediating them. So with all of that, the automation piece of it, you can schedule a Runecast analyzer to run hourly, daily, weekly to kick off scans and show you where relevant data and up-to-date data is available in your findings. Let me go to the next, the compliance frameworks. I like to highlight this because this is one of the bigger pieces of our feature set and products that people are becoming more and more interested in. So the security checks, we do have these 7 different frameworks today that are embedded into our product. We're constantly adding to this. About every month or 2, we're adding another framework. So as our clients and customers request different frameworks that they have to comply against, whether it be formal audits or self-internal audits, or they just simply want to comply against a certain standard. If it doesn't exist in our product, we've been adding these fairly frequently. So that's something that's always on the radar in our roadmap. But again, with these 7 different ones, we have government standards, HIPAA, PCI, all of these types of things, Center for Internet Security, NIST. It pretty much covers, if you can scan against one or all of these and pretty much cover all of your IT related security recommendations and standards within an environment. So with that being said, like I say, I know that you've seen a lot of this as a high level. So again, these are our baselines for security, but what I'd like to do now is just jump into our product and show you exactly what we're talking about and how Runecast can help. So let me pull this up real quick. Okay, so this is our lab environment here at Runecast. This is the web client pointed at our analyzer. And in essence, on the left-hand side, you're going to see 3 major sections. You're going to have a main menu, and really the main menu gives you different versions or abilities to see all of the findings and the data that Runecast Analyzer is discovering in your environment. So you have a dashboard, inventory view, and an all issues. I don't want to spend a ton of time in that. What I like to do is spend more time in the configuration analysis, and this is where the actual analytics, the checks are being performed, the findings are being discovered, and give you a feel for what Runecast is doing behind the scenes and how these things are discovered and presented to you. So one of the biggest benefits of Runecast Analyzer as opposed to other products in the environment is we not only identify and show you where the problem exists, but we also give you a resolution to the problem. So many products out there, you may get alerted after the fact. You're experiencing issues, downtime, applications down, servers down, network latency, whatever. You dig into your log files, you try to find an error code or something like that, and this is the process, the troubleshooting steps that end up taking place. You identify this, then you're out there on Google, or you're going to VMware's website, you're going to a vendor's website, trying to determine what that error code means in your environment and identifying a resolution to it. Many times you will find suggested remediation steps that aren't valid for your environment. So that's the biggest difference between Runecast and many other products is we're proactive in nature. So we're showing you underlying configuration problems, how they stack up against KBs, known issues that have been documented, best practices, security, and hardware compatibility. But we're also giving you resolution. So if I expand one of the KBs that has been discovered, we're going to sort all of the issues by severity, critical, major, medium, and low. Up in the above section, you can sort by either severity, what it applies to, if you just want to look at management, compute, network, what it affects is if you're only interested at the moment about security, performance, recoverability, manageability, or by product, okay? If you're only interested in your vSAN, NSXV, your Horizon VDI environment, your vSphere environment, et cetera, you can sort by those things and filter and hone in on those areas for your troubleshooting experience. So again, if I expand one of these, we're going to give you, as much detail as possible. In fact, we give you so much detail. This is all pulled from reliable documented sources that are pulled into the product to where you don't have to exit this product and go out to a website and do those types of things, which is always time consuming. It's again always, in my experience, is several years of a system administrator trying fixes that are recommended that don't work. At the end of the day, we're going to give you the resolution. We're going to give you links directly to the VMware's knowledge base article in this case and tell you we're going to give you the symptoms that you're experiencing or will experience. We're going to give you the cause, what causes this issue, workaround, and we're going to give you a resolution. Okay, we're going to give you actual command lines to go run on your host server to fix this issue and eliminate this as an issue in the environment. Some of the real power of Runecast is not only, single identification, but multiple. Under findings, you'll see all of the objects in the environment that are experiencing this configuration and have an issue based on the configuration related to this KB article. This one happens to be a purple screen of death. Obviously, purple diagnostic. Obviously, it's critical. Anybody familiar with VMware knows purple screens, like in Windows, blue screen, it's down. System's down hard. You've got a problem, and you're immediately going to remediation steps. So this is identifying known issues ahead of time, so you're not doing that, taking the time while you're experiencing downtime. So we give you all of this information. We give you the objects that have been identified. So each of these have this configuration in the environment that need to be remediated. So the checks need to be performed, remediation steps taken, and then ultimately any previous or post scan after this should clear this one up on this one. So under the automatic checks, these are the actual checks that are being performed to validate that this condition is true. So, what I always like to say is we don't provide false positives. As my example before, you go out, you get suggested remediation steps that may or may not work. That's where we come in. These are not false positives. This is an underlying documented issue in the environment. We've identified the host. We're showing you the checks that were performed to validate that this is true, et cetera. So we're not just looking at the host version and then grabbing some document based on that host version, but in this case, we're looking at the version, the build number, how your VM NICs are configured, et cetera, to validate this is a true condition in your environment. We always provide a notes tab, which is just a free-form field. You put in whatever notes you want in here. Say you're going to remediate this issue next Tuesday at 4 p.m., what have you. Ignore button creates a filter. For whatever reason you validate that this condition is not a problem in your environment, you can create a filter and not see it again. The best practices section, very similar to KB's, except best practices is the vendor's recommendation on how you should have things configured. You're going to see results as pass fail. Okay, if I scroll clear down through here, eventually I do start passing some things. But again, this is best practices. This is generally where most of our clients make use of the filter button. It just happens to be the case. The VMware's recommendations on how you can configure isn't always applicable to every environment. I think we all aware of that. Again, we'll show you the objects affected by this, a note section, etc. At any point in time within the Runecast product, regardless of what section you're in, you have the ability to generate and create a report. So I could create a report just on best practices, kick that out. I can save it as a CSV file, PDF, or I can copy it to my clipboard, paste it into Microsoft Excel or something like that, and have that data at my fingertips, so to speak. So we do offer that as far as reporting is concerned. Security, again, becoming more and more popular. I mean, you cannot run an IT environment without having some level of security awareness. So again, the standard frameworks that we have, what I want to point out here is, again, via the settings tab, if you go and you can enable or disable any of these frameworks within the product itself. So if I have no interest in CIS for whatever reason, I can go into settings, I can disable it, and it won't show up. BSI IT Grundschutz is a European government standard. If I'm based in the United States, I may not have interest in that. If I do have federal regulations and different things, I have DISA STIG, Department of Defense. I have NIST and other types of things that I can cover. I don't have to cover all of these, but I can if I wish. So that's just one other thing. Each of these frameworks are going, basically we pull this from that organization's database, if you will, or their framework itself. So we're pulling that in. So the point being, each one of these will look very similar. You're going to have pass fails depending on how your analysis went, but each one's going to have a little bit of nuance to it, as opposed to some of the others. Like PCI, like the highlight. PCI has and comes with some customizable checks for your environment. So their standard may not cover everything to your standard, as an example. So there's some customized controls that you can go in and change in here. Password policy is an example. The complexity, this one's a perfect example. If the complexity rules for PCI are not applicable to you, you want to change them, you can come in here and put your own values in. Okay. Another thing I wanted to highlight is a handful of these will also pull in and give you separate tabs that illustrate the detail of that control as defined by the security organization. So in this case, PCI DSS, if I click that tab, this is going to give me all of the specific control information from that organization. Okay, so this is wonderful to have for your auditor or your internal security officer or your security person that's overseeing these. This is going to be lingo that they understand, and they can then take and see what's happening in the environment. PCI also provides technical description. This is more geared toward your VM sysadmin, where, okay, we don't speak in the PCI detail lingo. We talk in VMware technical. This is where you click this tab. It'll tell you exactly from a VMware perspective how to go to remediate this and change this finding from a fail to a pass. Okay. Again, in here, we're going to show you the objects that are affected. And in PCI, it does have the customize, so you can sort and filter by the customizable controls. You can add your custom value here. And again, for whatever reason, if you don't want to or need to validate against this control, you can create a filter. With this as a high level, it'll show you just at a high level what objects, the number of objects that have been identified. So you can just see that without drilling into any of these. The orange triangle here that hovers over a finding just indicates that there's a notes entry for that control. Okay, so if I even just hover over it, I don't have to dig into it. I can just hover over it and it tells me right here, it'll pop up and tell me what the note says. So again, each one of these, very, from those organizations, strict controls. Some of them, I'm highlighting NIST. Some of them have more stringent controls than others. They have settings in here that you can filter on. NIST example priority. If you're only interested in priority 1, 2, or 3, okay, you can sort on that. You can sort on results and all those types of things. And again, so at the end of the day, you look at this, 7 different frameworks. You might have a question, I don't really know what to comply against, or you might already know. You can just select one, disable the other ones. But baseline, I always recommend somebody run the VMware environment, enable the VMware hardening guidelines. This makes sense. CIS, Center for Internet Security, those 2 at bare minimum. And then generally, depending on the industry that you're participating in, as far as your business is concerned, then a 3rd one would probably come into play. If you take payment card industries for payments, et cetera, if you're in healthcare, and so on and so forth. So that's my general recommendation for anybody. So a lot of times our clients, you'll see them have at least 3 of these enabled. And that's just our recommendation. If I go into hardware compatibility, this is personal, one of the favorite features that we have built into our product. This is really analyzing your hardware stack that's running your VMware environment and showing you where you have problems, okay, against the current version of ESXi that you're running. So in here, we're going to, after analysis has taken place, we're going to show you where you have within your hardware stack problems or incompatibilities with the current version you're running. So if I come in here and look at, not only do we analyze the server platform itself, but we're also looking at the cards, the IO devices that are installed in that server. We're going to give you all of the details and information that you would like to have within that. So we're going to give you the type of server, the generation of server, the CPU generation and series, how many sockets, ESXi release, the BIOS levels. This one happens to be, I have a BIOS that's incompatible with the current version of VMware I'm running, and I know from our naming convention I'm running 6.5. And so it tells me that. But again, the power of Runecast is not only identifying this as an issue, we give you a list of supported BIOSes. Again, we give you a resolution. Not many products out there will. They'll flag you, they'll tell you, they'll alert, hey, we have a problem, and then you go on your merry way, so to speak, and troubleshoot and figure out what that problem is and how to remediate it. We tell you right up front what you need to do. IO devices, very similar. Again, I have some LSI symbolic logic controllers. Let's see what's wrong with them. I have a firmware version that's not compatible. Give you a list of firmware versions. And what we're doing here is, I'd like to illustrate, is we're not only looking at the version, we're looking at the firmware and the driver combinations, and if there's incompatibilities between those as far as compatibility as well. So it's not just flagging this firmware's out of date, or looking at this driver's out of date. It's a combination of both and their intercompatibility between those. As you can see in our environment, we do this on purpose. We have a mixed mode environment, which I'm aware most companies are running different versions of ESXi. So we have 6.0, 6.5, and 6.7 in the environment. And we do that on purpose, obviously. And then ultimately, we do have a hardware simulator. And what this does and provides for you is the ability to select a newer version of ESXi and simulate your hardware stack as if it was running that new version. So we already have 7's HCL built in our definition database. So we've already cached your information from your configuration and your hardware. So all we're doing now is we're comparing the two. So our analytics engine does that. You saw how quick that happened. This is, you know, our lab environment, which isn't tiny. I mean, it's not huge, but it, you know, ultimately, that was an illustration of how quick this analysis takes place because things are cached. We already have the data in our definition database, but I just turned on 7.0, and as you can see, I have a bunch of results that I had some green before, and now everything's red. So obviously, prior to an upgrade, when I want to upgrade these host servers to 7, I need to come in here and validate and check where my hardware stack is lacking. And that these are things that I need to go remediate prior to an upgrade, or I'm going to have problems after the upgrade. I've run into that several times myself. Excuse me. Getting through and troubleshooting issues after an upgrade is always daunting. Systems are usually down. There's problems. This can help eliminate the majority of that, if not all of that, as far as the hardware is concerned. If I click on our den, let me close this real quick. Only thing I wanted to, just a different environment. I also wanted to show in here, so it's not only server IO devices, but if you also have vSAN connected to one of your clusters or vCenter servers, we're going to show that as well, because we do support vSAN, Horizon, NSXV, and so on and so forth. So that's going to show up here, show you what about your vSAN controllers and your disks, and show you where there might be any issues related to those as well, okay? So let me close that. Last but not least, you know, we talk about log analysis. So out of the box, Runecast Analyzer, you first set it up. You need to go into your settings, configure your logs for Runecast to be able to accept them. Then you log into your host servers and configure log forwarding, and then you point it at Runecast. Then you'll have your logs, your ESXi host servers forwarding their logs to Runecast. What we do, we do two separate things with your logs, in that we analyze your logs and see if there's any known issues, any documented known issues related to your log files. If there are and they're discovered, they'll show up here. Again, this is really geared towards saving sysadmin troubleshooting time. The log analysis section is the only reactive feature set or function that we have in our product. Everything I've shown you up to this point is all proactive in nature. The log analysis was built in to again speed up troubleshooting and help and eliminate and hopefully identify that needle in the haystack for a system administrator. So we do check against KBs, but also we provide this log inspector. In it, you have a trending graph, but what this is doing is taking all of your logs, sorting and filtering them on errors. So either failed to, unable to, SCSI command, and a P, and only showing those logs that have errors in them. So we're not designed to be a full syslog solution like a Log Insight, very powerful tool, supports many products, but you have to know what you're looking for. It pulls all the data in, so it's more of a, know what you're looking for, and you can find the data in there. What we're doing is we're pulling that out of the equation and focusing in and only illustrating errors that are discovered within your logs, again, to aid and speed up troubleshooting. The knowledge definitions, I just wanted to highlight, these are updated at least twice a month, unless there's a high level type of event that's discovered in the industry. Say there's a new security breach out there. If that's discovered, our team will jump and drop everything and have the knowledge definitions updated in about 24 hours at the most. L1TF a couple summers ago comes to mind. We had that pushed out, and our clients were scanning against and for L1TF about 12 hours after it was released, and VMware made it aware of it being an issue. The Enterprise Console dashboard, I just highlight this real quick. The Enterprise Console was designed and developed for those environments that may have multiple Runecast analyzers installed. And what that does is it consolidates everything into a single screen and gives you a high level. You have the ability in Enterprise Console to create groups, manage groups, but this is essentially looking at all of your analyzers in your environment and showing you a high level dashboard of what's happening within it. So we're going to give you the management systems names that analyzer's targeting, what type it is, and then we're going to give you a high level of critical, major, medium, and lows that are current on that analyzer, log analysis, if it's configured or not, security compliance, best practices, and where that analyzer and that environment stacking up, give you the analyzer name, and last time data was received, if it's syncing, and what version it's running. So just another thing, this is very valuable for MSPs and other or people simply with a very large environment. They're going to have multiple Runecast analyzers installed. So with that being said, I do want to leave some time. I know this was pretty fast, but we do have. Sorry again, this is taking a little bit of time. What I wanted to end with is, give you some overall business benefits. It's a time saver. Runecast Analyzer is going to reduce your outages. It's going to improve your security, minimize risk, and continuous compliance. And it's overall, all of this, at the bottom line, reduce costs. Reduce costs from your sysadmin spending time, reduce costs by systems being down, applications being out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really what we're about. And, if you want any additional information, a customized demo just for you, obviously we have our website. We do have a free 14-day trial. Okay, it's unlimited. It's fully functional. It only limits you on the amount of data that's present, but everything I just showed you today is active and available within the trial. And you can reach us at innovate@runecast.com. So we can do a deep dive. I can hop in, do a demo, show you some of the settings, configurations, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, I did want to leave a couple of minutes at the end for questions. And so I'll just leave it at that and turn it back over to you, David. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, great demo, Wade. Really appreciate you taking time, to do a live personal demo for us. This just makes the event always so much better. So we do have a lot of questions coming in. If you have a question out there about Runecast, now's the time to get it in. We've got the special URL up there. Special email up there, innovate@runecast.com for a deep dive if you'd like to reach out. And of course, you can do a 14-day unlimited trial at no cost at all. So over at runecast.com. Um, let's see, we've got some questions rolling in. First one I wanted to ask you, Wade, is if people wanted to get started with Runecast, can you kind of walk us through the process? Is this a virtual appliance that we deploy into our
Yeah.
vSphere infrastructure?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So if you go out to runecast.com, that's where you can sign up. It's about a 2-minute process. Put your name and information in their email address. That creates a web portal account for you. That enables the OVA file, the trial. So you can down, yeah, it is. It's an OVA. It's about 1.3 gig in size. It's fully self-contained, and that's one thing I wanted to highlight is once you install Runecast, it gets installed in your on-prem VMware environment. There's no cloud aspect to our tool or our product, and data is entirely secure. So no data ever leaves your environment. So Runecast doesn't even know if you're running it. As an example, we don't receive any information back. Nobody outside your organization has information on your environment. It's a very quick setup. You create a virtual appliance. As indicated, you select if you have a small, medium, or large environment, and then you target a management system, whether it's a vCenter server, Horizon Connection Manager, and so on and so forth. We do support AWS. I didn't get a chance to inject that, but we support Amazon's best practice checks and PCI, CIS, and NIST security controls for your AWS instances as well.
Really nice. There's two things that really struck me during your presentation. One was that statistic that you said, I believe it was something like 90% of problems
Mhm.
can be solved based on what's in the VMware knowledge base. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, yeah, it is, and that's not just a number that we pull, kind of out of the sky, so to speak. Our CEO, Stan, is the VCDX number 74. So he led the IBM Center for VMware Expertise out of Europe for IBM back in the day. So that's why he developed the product. They were a team of VM sysadmins. He worked with them. He was a design expert, but what they kept finding over and over and over again is you have an issue in the environment, you start troubleshooting, come to find out it's that issue's known and it's been documented somewhere. So the 90%, I mean, day over day, that could drop to 89, 91, jump back up. 90% was really the valid number that they were finding. Almost everything that they were troubleshooting, they found in a VMware knowledge base article, a best practice document, a white paper, so have you. So, it really is software defined data centers. VMware is a very mature product. We're at version 7 now. I mean, I know when I started in the game, I was 1.5. Not to age myself, but they're a very mature product. So, they have vast VMware communities, social media presence. They document a lot of things. We happen to be a technical partner of theirs. So, meaning if there's anything that we discover, we do inject our own knowledge and experience into the product as well and definitions, but we partner with them. So it's a handshake. So if we identify issues, we relay back to VMware, and ultimately, those things become documented as well. But that's a long way to saying, yeah, 90%. From all my years in troubleshooting, I mean, how do we normally find a resolution to a problem? We search for it, we find it documented somewhere, and we go apply it. Every once in a while we come up with our own solution, but that's where the 10% comes into play.
Absolutely. And being able to, prevent those problems before they happen by implementing the best practices, to me, that's what's, really gold about this product. And from someone who's tried to implement the vSphere Security Hardening Guide personally, I don't know if anyone out there has ever tried it, but it's an Excel spreadsheet with like hundreds and hundreds of things to do. It's really overwhelming. So that just struck me when you were doing the demo there, just how easy it was to click on, hey, I want to implement PCI hardening in my vSphere environment. Boom, boom, boom. Here's exactly what you need to do. It looks like it could just save tons of time and headache for any vSphere admin out
Yeah.
there.
And that's really what we're all about. And you're exactly right. I mean, can you imagine we have 7 full security frameworks, and you can imagine the checks and the compliance standards that they have. I have played in security in the past, and it is daunting. So to have something that will analyze and check your environment and kick you results in a matter of minutes is pretty. It's highly advanced. It just is. It's an automation piece that is intended to take work off of your plate. Security is one area. If you ever had to deal with the HCL, you know what I'm talking about. The hardware compatibilities and the plethora of vendors that partner with the hardware vendors that partner with VMware. Not to mention just platforms and IO devices and cards like I illustrated, but firmware versions and drivers. I know in my experience, the last thing in the world you ever do, you keep the environment up and running. That's generally a sysadmin's job. 100% focused on that, troubleshoot issues as they occur. People are mad, screaming. But at the end of the day, Runecast is here to alleviate the majority of that, do it proactively, and do it in an automated fashion. I touch on the HCL, but it's truly a click of the button. Again, the results are, you don't wait days or hours for results. You have them in minutes. Once you set up and do an analysis in your environment, it's very quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like a tool that really should just be part of vSphere. I wish.
Yeah.
But without it, it's kind of like the plumber without his wrench or Batman without his tool belt. This seems like this could be a really invaluable tool for vSphere admins out there to make their life easier. I know we're running out of time. We want to kind of try to keep this a short demo event. I want to respect everyone's time. And Wade, of course, kudos to you for an excellent demo and presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, David. I really appreciate it. Hopefully everybody found value.
Absolutely. And thank you to Runecast for supporting us. Visit runecast.com for the 14-day unlimited trial. I bet you could solve a lot of problems, even maybe prevent some problems in your vSphere environment just in that 14-day unlimited trial. So make sure you check it out. And of course, email innovate@runecast.com for your own personal deep dive. Thank you to everyone in our audience for supporting today's webinar. Don't forget about the handouts tab there where you can download some additional resources before you go. I hope you learned a lot and have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.